Sam Spruell, welcome to An Actor Despairs. How are you doing, brother?
Uh, Thank you for having me on. I'm all right. Yeah, I'm well. I'm on lockdown
Yeah, I can only imagine.
again.
Well, before we get into the negative, I do want to start with the positive, man. Like, you have been one of my favorite actors for the last 10 years. I so rarely, actors are able to come in a show, and it doesn't matter if it's a co-star, guest star, or just like, a single episode. But when I saw your episode of Luther, I was like, I was just so drawn to your energy, and I was like, who is that guy? And then I was like, oh, he was in the Hurt Locker, and I went back and watched that, and then ever since then, I've watched everything that you've done, and you're one of the greatest and most talented actors working right now, brother. You have such power and nuance with your choices, and I have the utmost and profound respect for what you do with the craft. And I hope I can be 1/10 the actor you are one day, man. It's just so
Oh,
graceful watching
Ryan,
you
it's
work.
that's unbelievably nice of you to say so, and hopefully there's more people like you who think that
Oh,
way,
there are.
especially who are dishing out the jobs.
Now that Bond's coming into an end, I'm gonna talk to Barbara and get you in for
Very good.
007.
I'm glad we got that contact.
Yeah, we're gonna make it. Sam Spruell for Bond. But brother, before we dig into work, I'd love to start at the beginning. So, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Southeast London, and moved around a bit because of my dad's job. But ultimately, yeah, most of my childhood was in London, and that's where my mum still lives, and that's where I live now. I live in not Southeast London, but East London.
Okay. And so were your parents artists, or what did they do?
Yeah, well, my they were a real mix, but my mum is an actress, and
Oh,
so I grew
amazing.
up around it. And my dad was an engineer, and they met. My dad played golf with someone another actor who was in a theatre company with my mum, and that's how they got together because those two worlds don't often mix.
Yeah, golfing and acting are not something
Yeah,
that, unless
exactly.
it's like some celebrity tournament,
No, I know, and
yeah.
actually, my mum's a bit of a left-wing firebrand, and golf clubs aren't really known for kind of accommodating left-wing firebrands. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was always been a bit of a kind of sticking point in their marriage. But no, they had a long marriage before my dad's died now, but they had a
Oh, I'm
long
so
marriage.
sorry for your
And
loss.
no, not at all. But they yeah, it was a good combo. It kind of like my dad was a kind of strong, silent type, and my mum is kind of a very vivacious, kind of demonstrative actress. So
Wow. So
it was
opposites
interesting.
attract in some ways
I
there.
think so.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly.
Are
Yeah.
are you the only child?
No, I've got a sister who's a psychotherapist.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, well, useful when discussing character actually,
Yeah,
because
oh God, that'd be such a great resource to have. I'm
yeah,
curious then. So talk to me. I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, so I didn't really have access to theater, but like being in London, you got the West End, you got the Old Vic, you got, all the great BBC programs. Like, what was the thing that got you interested in theater? Like, was there a
well,
moment?
I think actually I didn't really know I had an interest in theatre, but I think for a kid being the son of an actor, I just found the going backstage or meeting actors and the kind of personality of those acting communities, I just found it so intriguing and attractive.
Yeah.
I loved the fact that it was a group of energized individuals who could tell stories and have a real laugh, who were quite big drinkers. There was just a lot of personality in the group of friends that my mum
The
had, and
energy.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I
Yeah.
loved I loved all that, and then it was just kind of, I suppose, I, yes, I was aware of kind of London theatre and all, well, the kind of culture that London has, but really it was much more micro for me. Like I started going to a local youth theatre when I was about 8 or 9, and that was kind of really brilliant for me. I think brilliant for all kids, whether
Yeah.
they want to go into acting or not. It's just as a kind of confidence thing, as a way of kind of like being able to communicate what I wanted to say. That really helped me out. I just love
Yeah.
that aspect to it.
That's so beautiful because I always feel like, when your parents are in the business, it goes one of two ways where you love it or you're embarrassed by it. You know what I mean? And that's
Yeah.
so cool that you embraced that. How was your mother when like what was the moment where you were like, Mom, Dad, I really want to do this youth theater?
I mean, it was. I think it was just the thing because I was really young, so I think it was just like it was just there and it happened. But it turned out to be a resource for me that was just fantastic. It was a social scene. It was doing stuff that I just responded to. It allowed you to kind of express yourself,
Wow.
and it was all about imagination. And I think those are kind of things that, as a professional, some of those things get forgotten about. And
Yeah,
actually,
totally.
we should be being as imaginative as possible. When a lot of the times the work requires you just to kind of be a cog in a machine. Where
Yeah.
I think actually we need to be, you know, not all parts allow that, but certainly projects should be thinking big all the time. And I think
No.
that being part of a youth theatre, being part of a kind of storytelling world, really engendered kind of imaginative thinking. And
And
that's certainly kind of been the flavour of how I like to approach work ever since, really.
yeah, that childlike wonder of imagination. That's what we all strive to maintain. As you get older,
Totally.
you get so disillusioned from that.
Well,
And
I think that's a problem. You get a bit
yeah,
down, and if you're lucky enough to have some kind of career, lucky enough to be working a lot, it's your duty to be imaginative as possible about the story you're telling. And a lot of people kind of are a bit frightened about that. They're a bit frightened to kind of go beyond the lowest common denominator. Whether it be like with a baddie part, or a kind of what if you're trying to kind of shoot a love story or whatever it is, let's try and tell these stories in different ways and in an
yeah,
imaginative way as possible.
that's so beautiful. And we don't have them the way you guys do there with like youth theaters. Maybe in New York and like more metropolitan cities. But I'm
Yeah.
curious, when you guys were doing work there, what were you doing? Were you doing like original contemporary plays, or was it
No,
you? Yeah.
because I think I was one of the youngest, so I was about 9, but there was like 11, 12, 13-year-olds there. But what it was actually attached to, it's so funny that we're talking about this because it's such a kind of tiny youth theatre, but it was important for the local area.
Yeah, of course.
It was attached to a kind of something called Age Concern, it was a charity which kind of invested in pensioners, but it also at the same time as kind of helping pensioners out, it would get them into the centre, and there would be quite a lot of interviews and discussions about their lives as younger people as well. So it
Wow.
was a kind of like a history centre as well, that would record first-hand testimonies, and then what they would do with those testimonies, they would often then make a play out of those testimonies. So,
Wow.
so one of the good things about it was that we'd often be working with old people. So it was bringing old and young people together,
Yeah. Yeah.
and which is just a kind of, I think, just an awesome kind of concept, which
Uh,
we often doesn't happen enough. We're also always talking about the power of what young people can do for old people and what old people can teach young people, but we rarely have a kind of situation or a system that allows that to happen. But we do.
a community incubator, so to speak. Like
Exactly,
that's
exactly.
so beautiful, man. I'm so glad you
Yeah,
had that.
it
And
was. It was great.
as you transitioned into your teens, was there a moment then where you kind of started to
Well,
like,
well, then actually, weirdly, I was doing it at school a little bit, and I think just because it was in my genes a bit, I was, showed a bit of promise, and then a teacher said you should audition for something called the National Youth Theatre, which was
yeah, one of
another
the
youth theatre
best.
on a kind of national scale,
Yeah.
and that was based in London. I did that, I got in, and then I did plays with them until I left school every summer, and actually ended up getting an agent through doing a play with them, and that was just really kind of, again, a body of people all learning, whether there was kind of kids doing backstage stuff, I was acting obviously, but we were all learning together and learning about ourselves, in the same way that you do at that age. And it was really, like, it was, people were coming from all different backgrounds, from all different parts of the country, and it was so brilliantly educational, but that sounds so dry. But actually,
Yeah.
what I mean is, it was just like fantastic about learning about people from all around the country and their backgrounds and what they were living with, and people. We were in our teens, and people were kind of, they were getting. It was this kind of safe space to get to grips with their sexuality if they wanted to do that, and it was just seemed like a really open kind of institution to be yourself.
Yeah.
And then we just did some really good work, and it was really towards the end of my time there that I thought, oh, I could maybe do this for a job.
You
You know,
felt like you found your voice.
I think so. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I found enough enjoyment in it, and enough kind of methodology in when it came to like looking at plays and preparing characters, that I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is going to use my brain sufficiently to want to
Yeah.
do it for a long time.
Totally. And systematically, what was your approach? Did you want to just keep doing plays and enriching yourself in the theater community, or was film and TV something very much that piqued your interest as well?
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't even kind of considered film and telly. I mean, I liked it a bit, but I didn't know much about it. I wasn't a kind of cinephile or anything like that. I knew a lot about plays, and then I went to university and I studied drama there, which was a theoretical course, and that was all plays, all the history of theatre, nothing about film.
Which theater, which university was this?
I went to Hull University, which you won't have heard of Hull, but it's in the northeast of England. It was a kind of a huge fishing town in the
Oh,
early part of
wow.
the 20th century, and then a lot of the industry got wiped out, so it went through some hard times. But it's coming back.
Yeah, good.
But,
Coming back strong.
but they do have a really good university there, and it was a really good drama department. But one of the first jobs I got straight off the bat out of college was a film job. It was a short film, and then I got like two or three of my first jobs were all in film, including working for Catherine Bigelow on a film called K-19, The Widowmaker.
Oh,
We
yes.
all knew out of college. We all didn't know, but we just all thought we were going to be doing theatre, like above a
Yeah.
pub, or we had no kind of aspirations other than just to continue working, which
Yeah.
actually is quite a good aspiration for the rest of your life. But
Yeah.
and then suddenly I really enjoyed it. As soon as I kind of started film acting, I loved it. I loved the kind of factory element to it, where there's just loads of different people all working at the same time for one goal, which was like a minute take that is
Yeah.
right. And I
Because that's a
really
huge film. That's like,
huge, and that was
yeah.
kind of in a way like going to an amazing film school
Yeah.
where you just
Yeah.
learn about every aspect of it. And also, like, I was working, when I got that job, I was working in a calf. I mean, you don't call them a calf, but I was working in what would you call it? A diner, if you
A
like.
diner. Yeah. Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
man,
like,
I've done it.
or I was clearing maybe $150 a week, and suddenly I was being paid to be on a film. It was like winning the lottery. I just couldn't
Wow.
believe it. My dad, because he lived with my mum, who'd only done theatre, so had only earned very minimal amounts.
Yeah.
He just couldn't believe that I landed this job. But that was great. But what was really good was, working with all these people who were at the top of their game in the film world, like cameramen and sound people and special effects, and then some really incredible actors. So,
Yeah.
you know,
And Catherine, who you worked with later,
and
again.
Catherine,
Yeah.
she's a true artist in a way. She really makes you can see that she really kind of each scene is she kind of makes a painting,
Yeah.
and doesn't direct you as such. You just get a sense of your role within that painting. Sorry, I'm sounding a bit pretentious, but
No,
it's the
not at
truth.
all.
It's kind of like she makes paintings because she started off as a painter. And I think that's how she sees it. And you just find your role within that, and then you're away. And, but it was, I mean, and we filmed in Canada and we went all over the place. And it was really, and I made such good friends. But that was a kind of start where I thought, oh, well, then maybe I could do film acting. It doesn't have
Yeah.
to be theatre. And I came back, having done this big Hollywood film, and I didn't work for a year. And
Because the film obviously hadn't come out yet,
such
right?
a false dawn.
Yeah.
It did, even though, and then I got a job, and then, and then all through my 20s, it was a bit stop-start. But actually, it did set me on a road to being able to do film and television work.
And what, going from this huge experience to then this gap, how did you buoy yourself during that time and not, just literally cave to despair or,
I did cave to despair, actually.
Yeah.
Thinking back to it, it was really, I remember I was at home a lot, and the one thing I should have done,
Yeah.
I didn't, because I'd earned really well. So I had this money in my bank account, which I had never had.
Yeah.
And and so I didn't need to get a job. And actually, the best thing I could have done and should have done was I should have just got a job, any job. I should have gone back to the bar that I worked in. I should have done something. But and so I got quite, in any unemployment situation,
You were living in your head.
yeah, I was living in my head, which is not, you shouldn't be there too long.
Oh God, no.
But it was silly, and the thing I learned from it was, oh yeah, you just have to get a job. If you can wait around for a bit, but actually, if it's not, if the auditions aren't flying in, just get a job, because it's better to be around people. It's just it's the but most people it's you have to, because you need the money, and that's always going to dictate. But just in that moment of time, I didn't need the money, but I really needed the mental stimulus,
Yeah. Well, what was it like then for you when the film did come out? Because the film was successful, and
it was, but I mean, I was a small part in that film. I think one thing I've learned kind of, in my career to date is that, one thing I've learned is that you've just got to keep going, and the big breaks really are quite rare.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, and everything I've done some big films over the year.
Snow White,
and I've done
Taken,
some really interesting
all
parts.
of.
But actually, rarely do they really break things open.
Yeah.
But it does happen, and it's like, it's fantastic, and it especially happens to quite a lot of young people, because they become, I mean, we've seen it with loads of young people, like people coming out of Game of Thrones.
Or I had Paul Mescal and Daisy Edgar Jones on, normal people, shot out of the cannon,
But the majority of us are kind of dealing with, it happens in the States as well. Like, oh God, I name a dozen actors who I've seen all the time. I really rate them, but it's nothing has kind of really broken it.
Yeah.
It's just chipping away, being known as it is kind of, if you can get known as a great character actor, it's brilliant, but you just got to chip away, so more gradually you're recognized as not only a good character actor, but a good character actor who can hold a leading part as well.
Yeah,
but that's the dream.
That's the thing I love about you, is you are a good character actor, but you're a handsome motherfucker too, man. And you're able to play a multitude of characters, but there's this power behind you. And I'm so curious, as you came out of K-19 and did a few bit more parts, what then was there, with your agent, did you tactically have a path, or were you just kind of taking things as it came?
I just took things as they came, and now things are a bit more tactical, and I can kind of like maybe sometimes like jobs that I would never have turned down 10 years ago, because it was really important to work and I had a young baby to support and stuff like that. Now it feels like I feel more confident to turn stuff down, but I think on the whole it was just my strategy was just to carry on working
Yeah,
and to feed off the confidence of work,
totally.
and that really is important. And then a lot of young actors, sometimes I talk to them and they go, well, I don't know whether I want to do it, and I'm a bit like, the job
Yeah,
take the job and build it up, and and get a good body of work behind you, and then maybe a bit later, you know and
be
if
choosy.
you're like smashing it and you're a superstar, then yeah, it's a whole different set of rules. But
Yeah,
I think, ultimately it was taking the job, and also it's always been about looking out for interesting work, interesting writers, interesting directors and actors who can really push you, who can push you to be better, who can push you to kind of think think I don't know, more openly about what work can be as well. What are the kind of levels it can reach, and people doing kind of work that is makes you feel uncomfortable.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
doing kind of. I still am really attracted to doing work that is, I don't know, that is that kind of work above a pub or whatever, but that is kind of avant-garde theatre or something. I don't go and see a lot of avant-garde theatre, but
yeah,
actually it's big in Europe, and it's the kind of stuff that usually ends up, it's way at the kind of extreme end of kind of theatrical activity, if you like, but it all filters down.
yeah,
It all feeds into the work that we end up doing in more kind of mainstream circumstances. But be interested in it all. In you,
yeah.
as you would say, when you go and see some kind of great art that you know very little about in an art gallery, go and do the same with kind of theatre and other
Yeah.
stuff, and push your mind to kind of be more, as we say, be more imaginative.
And talk to me, brother, because I feel like that one of the biggest differences between the UK and America, as far as the shows that get made, is here in America we mythologize our working class, and often in the UK you mythologize the aristocracy, which is why
Yeah,
there's so many excellent period dramas.
yeah.
Were you interested in doing those, or did you try to avoid those?
No, I mean, I've done the only kind of period stuff I've done is where I'm playing working class people. I've never
Yeah,
been asked to. Actually, that's not true. I did play a lord once, but I think, yeah, I'm kind of also. It is a big export of ours, isn't it? If
yeah,
you look at kind
yeah.
of Downton Abbey, or loads of the period stuff,
Victoria, the
Jane Austen,
Crown. It's
yeah,
they
yeah,
just yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
And we do it well. I I don't immediately gravitate towards that because, I think I'm less interested in. I'm more interested in the kind of presentation of the past that is not about celebrating the very wealthy.
Right.
That's not to say. That's not to say we
I
can't
agree.
tell interesting stories, but I think I think we've done it a lot, and I think there's other stories about the past that
Like
that
Peaky
can
Blinders, maybe.
that can what's the word, that can include a more kind of diverse set of stories.
Totally.
And I think, while the costume dramas are not going anywhere, I
Yeah.
think I think just to kind of, we need to keep on thinking about what stories that we can tell that give you a kind of a rich version of British history or American history, or who the stories that we want to tell have to keep on being diverse.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And while this period was going on, right before we'll dig in the Hurt Locker, but were you still doing theater as well?
Yeah, I was doing. I mean, I've done a whole kind of range of some weird theatre and by a whole kind of mixture. I've done some Pinter. I did.
Which Pinter?
I did The Caretaker.
Oh, it's meant for you. Oh,
Yeah.
I got to see that on video. I hope it was recorded.
No, it was good. It was with Jonathan Pryce, who was fantastic.
Yeah, love Jonathan.
Really good role. And I did some Edward Bond, and I did and I'd done some Shakespeare, and then some modern plays as well. So it's kind of and actually theatre's a kind of funny one, because it's, for me now, I mean, I got together with someone, my wife works in film, and when I got together with her 15 years ago, suddenly she was getting up at 6 o'clock, I was finishing a play and coming in late after a few pints with the cast, and it didn't really, the combination of those worlds didn't really work. So I knew I was onto a good thing with her, so I thought, well, look, I'm going to do less theatre and try and do more film and telly. And I've been lucky enough to do that, but it's meant that I haven't done as much theatre in the last kind of 10 years as I would like. But I think it's one of those things with theatre. I mean, I don't know, where are you phoning from? Are you phoning from LA?
No, I live in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York City.
Oh, sorry,
Williamsburg. Yeah.
It's one of those things where I think theatre always does kind of drag you back.
Yeah, totally.
It's a form of concentration, because there is no do-over. There is no second take. You absolutely have to concentrate for that time.
Yeah, there's nothing like it in the world.
All the way through. And so it really does strengthen you as an actor, I think.
Yeah, and you're one of the sharpest ones, man. So when, Catherine had the idea to do this film, did you know that you were going to be, did she call you and say, hey, Sam?
Yeah, and then sometimes I have had people just call me, which is so weird. She called me and said, oh, will you play a part in this film? And I was like, yeah. And she said,
of course.
There's a couple of parts, I'll just send it to you and you can choose which one you want. I was like, okay, great, I'll choose the one with the most lines.
You and Ray Fine. I love it.
Next to Ray Fine, so I'm in camera.
Yeah.
And then I've had I've often had, not often, but weirdly had kind of odd phone calls, like with other directors who have called me up and and asked me if I wanted to do it. And that is actually, the straight offers are the best.
Yeah.
The auditions, as we all know, because I audition all the time, I'm sure you do.
I just had 3 this morning, so.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And there's something, even though sometimes it's nice to earn a job through the process. So to audition, smash the audition and get the job. And that's really nice. But actually, when you get an offer, what's really nice is that it just means from the off, someone has trusted you.
Yeah.
And it's quite a confidence boost, because you go, okay, great, they want me to do it. I feel invigorated to kind of start preparing this character, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
I did a job last year, and it was such a great role, such a great show, and they offered it to me. I was like, I could not believe it. I just could not believe I hadn't had to jump through hoops, because you go out for other jobs, a part that you're not that interested in, maybe, or just a TV show that you're not really sold on, but you just you have to go through so many fucking hoops.
The bureaucracy of it all is insane.
Yeah.
And it can mean nothing about your talent. It could be your eye color, and it doesn't work out.
At all.
Yeah.
Not at all. And then you realize that, I don't know, like the son of the producers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
A whole series of things that is absolutely nothing to do with your talent. It could be the way your hair is. It could be that they don't like your teeth. It's a myriad of things.
And when something like The Hurt Locker, speaking of getting shot out of a cannon, happened, and it had this huge Oscar, I mean, you have an amazing, few scenes in there, or more a long segment.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you ever at that point start to, I know you have a wife there, but did you ever think about maybe I should come to the States, or were you?
Yeah, I mean, I did a job in the States actually. I did a season and an episode on a show for TNT, and so we went and lived in LA for a bit. And yeah, I mean, eh, the States, because of just by virtue of its sheer output,
Yeah.
you're like, okay, let's do it. And also, quite frankly, TV in the States pays really well.
Yeah, it
You know,
does.
and so that to earn some money as an actor felt wonderful, felt unbelievably lucky,
Yeah.
because usually we're just skin all the time,
Yeah.
and it's very hand to mouth. It's like, well, I've got a job, this, that, so maybe this year is good, but once that money's gone, you haven't had another job, then it's
Yeah.
gone. So to put some money in the bank was great, and I think you're always going to, it has such a kind of amazing tradition of making movies there, and movies that's kind of on a large scale, that it's always going to seem really exciting. And so since I was quite young in my career, even when it was just like, I look back at it and go, why was I going? I was like going to the States, trying to get a manager or trying to kind
Yeah.
of put my face around. I would always do that from quite early on. And because I think also there is there is an energy you can feed off this in the States, which is
Yeah.
very much a can-do energy. Now, I feel slightly more cynical about that energy now,
I
because
do
I
too.
think it's a bit kind of, it can be misleading.
Yeah.
But it's still, when you go there, you really feel like you can make stuff happen there, and
Yeah.
that's really exciting, to feed off that energy.
Where do you feel like, because we'll dig into Snow White and Taken 3, but do you feel like, Luther being the rapid hit that it was, that was where people really got to know Sam,
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think again, it's just. I mean, certainly in Britain, I did a film in 2000, around 2006 maybe, which was called London to Brighton,
Yeah.
and it's a small, tiny film. We all worked on it for nothing, but it was a really big, for its size, a really big hit. It went to a lot of good festivals. I think it got nominated for a BAFTA for the
Oh,
director,
wow.
young British director, and but lots of people in the industry liked it, and they liked what I did, and it changed it. It just changed things.
Yeah.
You could just feel it, that I was meeting more people and go, oh, I saw you in that. It's fantastic. We'd really like you to meet for this. And even if I didn't get the job, I knew that I'd gone up a step.
Yeah.
And that sometimes you sometimes are aware. I mean, all too often in this game, you're aware. You just feel like you're going down steps.
Yeah, it's the
But
self-awareness is crippling at
yeah,
times. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
sometimes something happens and you go, it doesn't, like, it's not a Game of Thrones, but what it does do is that it brings people in the industry who you want to work with, it brings you to their attention,
Well, yeah,
whether it be casting directors or directors or whatever. And that was really good to do.
you were knighted, so to speak. I mean, to get Snow White and the Huntsman and Taken 3, those are huge studios that
Well,
are.
I only got Snow White and the Huntsman because the director Rupert Sanders had seen that tiny film, London to Brighton,
No
and
way.
he'd seen it, and then five years later said to the casting director, "There's a guy who I saw in this film. Can we get him in?" Because there was a whole list of people for that. I wasn't anywhere near those lists,
Yeah.
and I remember I was sanding the floors at home, and I got a call from my agent saying, "Can you go and see the casting director now? Because the director has asked for you to go on tape." I learnt the lines on the train. I went and did the audition, and then I had to do a screen test because the studio and
Yeah, the politics of all that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah.
and then I got the job, and it was but it was only because I'd done that first little tiny film, which we all did for free,
Wow.
and and so it was. Yeah, I mean, it was amazing. It was amazing chance that the director had seen a film.
And was it cool to go back to a $300 million movie set where it's
Oh,
film school all over again?
oh, I mean, it was
Yeah.
amazing. I mean, it was also, I had a part that I could really do something with and really be creative. And I remember, talking with the director, talking with Rupert and saying, well, look, I feel like I've seen these pictures and I think this look could work. And I'd found these pictures of an 80s punk, actually. So it was
Oh
like
wow.
a book about punks, and it was just this one particular guy who had a kind of his head shaved halfway back and this kind of strange bowl cut. And I said, I think this would be good, and but I want to dye my hair platinum as well. And yeah, there was the kind of capacity to make those decisions and action them, because there was
Yeah.
a budget, and it was just so we could do amazing looks. And then they wanted me to train, and because I had to do fights with Chris Hemsworth, who's ginormous,
Oh
and there was
God.
this skinny kind of very light guy, and I put on 50 pounds or whatever, and it was just
Of muscle
stuff.
or?
Yeah, but yeah, I mean,
Wow.
yeah, but stuff where, I mean, some of it was probably quite a lot of fat in there as well. But I was a lot bigger. But I think what was good about that was it's just having resource, having money to
Yeah.
do stuff, and actually to have that opportunity to go and horse ride. Yeah, I went every day. I didn't have to go every day, but I went every day because I thought I'm never going to have this chance again to
Yeah.
go and horse ride and to do this stuff. And it's that kind of thing. Sorry, let me turn the lights on.
Oh, no
It's that
problem.
kind of thing where you just go, oh, this is really important to take advantage of, and
Yeah.
it's those big budget things. That's what's great, is the resources available to you, and it never gets old, that for me,
Yeah.
to be able to learn new stuff or to be able to rehearse big fights. It's great.
And then doing something like Start Up, was that, kind of a throwback to London, to Brighton, just a great movie that you
Totally.
believed in the story and you wanted to be a part of it?
Totally, and also I think David Mackenzie, yeah, because we made that for nothing.
Yeah.
Again, it was like we were out. I remember because we were shooting in this prison in Belfast, and I
Oh, you guys
remember,
shot in Belfast. I didn't know that.
yeah, a
Wow.
disused prison in Belfast, and and everyone was looking. So where are the dressing rooms? And we were shown to. We each had a cell, so we were in this Victorian prison which was freezing in winter, and
And
gave,
in use, the prison, like, was it
yeah,
in use?
they
Wow.
gave us, it wasn't in use. It wasn't in use, but they gave us a cell just as rather than have trailers, we each had a cell. And
That's so
it had a little
badass.
bed and a heater, and it was totally depressing. But I suppose it kind of kept us,
In
I
that
don't know,
zone.
in the flavor of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was made for very little, and it was alive. It had brilliant young actors. Jack O'Connell, who obviously is just a
Yeah.
fantastic talent,
Ben,
and, and
Rupert.
Ben Mendelsohn, who's
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
Oh,
And it was just, I mean, the whole that show, the production, was chaotic. The script needed work during the process, and that's quite often. But it was part of the kind of fluid nature of it. David Mackenzie works in quite an unorthodox way. He's kind of keeps his cards close to his chest, but he's also like he promotes. He kind of likes it when it gets chaotic.
yeah.
And so there was lots of people doing lots of different stuff, and as you know, prisons can be chaotic. So it felt yeah, it felt disorganized, but actually it also was really exciting to be part of. Just seeing what people were coming up with and the
Yeah.
characters that they had, and also it's that kind of where there's no bullshit waiting for stars or waiting for kind of
Totally.
people to
Yeah.
go through the works of like dealing with their team, dealing with all the kind of high profile stuff. It was just actors turning up and getting on with it.
Yeah, no one being a fucking asshole. I love that. And last one before we move into Mangrove, Taken 3. Was that just a blast?
Take Taken Three again was I was actually in LA and I auditioned for it there, and then just before I left LA, I got the job, and so it was really it was really exciting to return home knowing that I was going to do this action movie and be part of this kind of crazy franchise.
Yeah.
And it was just a real laugh. And I had kind of one, but it's all French crew essentially. There was some people, but most of it shot in France.
Yeah.
They did some in America, but most of it shot in France. And half the time I didn't understand what was going on. Like the weapons guys, they didn't speak any English, and I speak some French, but it was just funny. There was kind of lost in translation stuff.
Literally, yeah,
We're
yeah.
doing one scene. I'm in my underpants. I've got a machine gun, and I'm meant to be firing um, at Liam Neeson's character, and the camera was on me. So I just thought, right, they're just gonna. But it was just really starting on me. But there wasn't rehearsal, and I remember starting to fire this machine gun. And then I spotted another camera in the corner, and then I realised we're doing the whole lot, and suddenly this apartment, which was a set, just started blowing up. It just all these squibs were going off, and I was kind of firing this machine gun. I didn't realise any of this was going to happen because sometimes they give you more warning that there's going to be other.
Yeah, what to expect.
I mean, and by the time they finished the take, everything was just destroyed, and it was that kind of. It was always surprising and funny, and it was just a real laugh doing that film. Actually,
That's amazing. Yeah, I say this with love. It's a real laugh watching that film because they're so stylized and over the top.
Totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
They're fun.
So then, going totally in a different direction, talk to me about Mangrove, brother. You're so amazing in that, and Steve McQueen, an icon. How did this come your way?
The casting director just got me in to meet Steve.
Did you know him already or no?
I knew the casting director. I obviously didn't know Steve, and we did the scene, and I did it very differently from how I ended up doing it in the film. But I think there was a kind of energy or a kind of tone that I touched on that Steve really liked, and he cast me.
Wow.
And then we started rehearsing it, and he got me to change the performance completely, and got me to re-understand what he wanted from the part, and it was. I felt quite trepidatious about it because it's a story about the black community in London, in West Indian community in West London more specifically, and I was playing, this racist cop, and I felt, it's quite a tough gig, a story about black resilience, and you're playing Numero,
Evil.
the racist.
Yeah,
and so I just was like, you have to kind of gird your loins. You have to steel yourself to do that. Not only just to play those kind of characters, but also to be around, a predominantly black cast and you're all slightly staying in character, and you're all kind of continually hating each other through the day, because that's what you have to. Those are the parts you're playing. When actually all you want to do
is hug.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And say, fuck this. This is horrible.
Yeah.
But you can't. You have to keep that tension. And we hugged at the end, and it was a really glorious hug.
Oh.
But up until all through weeks of filming, it was quite a lonely spot to be.
Yeah.
Apart from the conversations I had with Steve, and he was really wonderful and supportive, and energized and agitated, and is just like a ball of creative fire.
Yeah.
And who doesn't stop until he gets what he needs. And sometimes he gets on the first take.
Oh, wow.
And he just stops, and you're just like, oh, can I have another one? And he was like, no. Like, okay. All right, it's done. But it was, I really, just that kind of the pressure he places on top, in a kind of good way, on top of you is good. It's like you come with your A game. Everyone does. And it was great to work with him.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful film, and the day this interview is going live, everyone, you have to check it out. It's such an imperative viewing, especially in the world that, I mean, particularly in America right now, but in the world altogether, it's crazy to say. I don't want to say how little has changed, but how similar things are.
Yeah,
The
and and
parallels.
and Steve, I mean, but Steve dedicated the films to George Floyd. I mean, that says it all, really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And talk to me, man. As someone who's played a lot of, villain or not always the most likable, you're able to do it with such three-dimensional capabilities and to make them flawed but understandable. Like, what's your process when you get a character? Do you work with a
Um,
coach, or I'm not asking
no,
you to give your secrets away, but
yeah, no, I just do. I do. I start. I just try and think who they are as people. And so with this guy, I think he's quite confused about the world he lives in. So
yeah,
I don't know whether he does some very cruel things, but he's unable to be generous to someone. And what makes you unable to be generous and so ungenerous to someone that you end up being cruel? You end
yeah,
up being really deeply unkind to someone and
yeah,
vicious. Like, what has happened to you? What is happening to you that
yeah,
makes you do that? It's not because you're intrinsically evil. And
yeah.
I'm not interested in the kind of ha ha ha
I
kind
know,
of
right? The
characters. I mean, like, of course, you sometimes get a two-dimensional character that you just go, fuck it, yeah, let's
Yeah,
go
I
all
just
out
got
on
it.
this, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
going to be fun, and it's like panto.
yeah,
But actually, most of the time, you want to make something that's interesting and three-dimensional, and yeah, that really doesn't start with how evil can I make this guy. It usually starts with what's happened to this guy. What
yeah,
damage has he sustained that makes him cruel to others? And I've always found that that's a really uh, useful starting point to get underneath to achieve some depth
yeah.
to someone who is a piece of work.
What a wonderful answer. So beautiful. Well, it's such an incredible film, and I'm so grateful for your time. I got to find a few questions for you, if that's okay, brother. And I'd
Sure.
love to have you back anytime. You've been so amazing, and my
Right.
gratitude is endless.
Wow.
For all the young Sams out there, male or female, wide-eyed actors that are maybe finishing, I don't know what you guys call it there, we call it high school, primary school, or grant,
Yeah.
and want to enter this business. Any words of advice you would have for them?
Um, I mean, I started late, but I would say get together with your friends who are interested in it as well and just make stuff.
Yeah,
Don't worry about your future stardom. If you're good and have qualities, you will have a career. But I think if you want a really fulfilling career, start making stuff, start
yeah,
creating stuff, start writing as well as you're acting,
yeah,
and work on that because I think that's all you are employed by anyway. Someone
yeah,
else who's started writing and working with other stuff. But to do it yourself, you may get a chance to get to decide that you're going to give yourself that big part that you would never get normally, or whatever. And
yeah,
I think it's like I think we all have these stories within us. So go and tell them. Don't wait for the
for someone to
opportunity.
give you a turn.
Yeah, or don't
Yeah,
wait for someone to so you can play a part in telling their story. Tell
yeah,
your stories. And I think yes, of course, there is all kinds of acting possibilities as well. I think it's some really exciting ones, and some people get incredible opportunities, and you'll go and do Shakespeare, or you'll go and work with Catherine Bigelow, or whatever it is. But I think essentially, if I'm talking to a young person, I'm saying, well, you are the future of the industry, so
yeah,
maybe you should just start thinking about that now, not in a heavy way, but
yeah,
just start making stuff now.
yeah.
Especially with iPhones. I mean,
The
Jesus, you can make a
technology.
really good
Yeah,
film on an iPhone. We're all doing tapes, audition tapes on an iPhone now.
I
So
know.
why not just shoot the fucking
And
thing?
all our photos are pretty much iPhone photos now.
Exactly, and
It's
they're all
yeah,
really good. And then when you get on set, you go, "Oh, we can shoot that with That's I think they say that's 4G. We can we can shoot that with an iPhone, and it matches up with that digital camera we're using.
Wow, that's so nuts, man.
So in a way, I'd say start making stuff early. Start writing stuff. Experiment with that.
Wonderful answer, man. Thank you for that. And final question. Man, it's been a really heavy time in the world. What's keeping Sam inspired right now?
I don't know. I'm kind of I don't know, I'm doing some work which is good, so I'm thinking about that, and I'm also just reading and watching good shows, good films that I haven't seen. And I mean, like, that is the one good thing about lockdown, is having the time just to kind of do stuff maybe that you wouldn't do normally. But I think sorry, I'm not being very fluid.
No, you are, man.
But I think just, and also I've got a little garden. I feel like in New York, very few people have a garden.
No, it's so hard.
But I've got a little garden, and so I've been growing vegetables all through the summer. That has been a beautiful thing.
Botany is a wonderful thing, man. I love that. Well, Sam, I'm such a big fan of yours, man. I have so much love for you, brother. I'm gonna get you a bond, and if you're ever in New York or I'm in there, I'd love to grab coffee. And
I will do that.
Let's do this again, man. So much love, brother. You're truly an artist through and through, and I look forward to all that's to come.
Oh, thanks so much, Ryan.
All right, much love, Sam.
Take it easy. Bye.
All right.
I am thrilled to announce that An Actor Despairs is partnering with a wonderful CBD company called Kind Farms. Everyone out there has heard of CBD. I started taking it a few years ago when I first started getting sober and to help with my anxiety. Sadly, as one can do, I was overtraining in the gym, and a friend recommended a topical and a tincture to help with the pain. I tried it. It was okay. However, recently, I was introduced to a product that has really changed my life. Not only has it helped me with anxiety, but I am stronger than I have ever been. I'm able to carry out lifts my body used to prevent me from doing. Kind Farm products have single-handedly changed my life athletically and personally. They utilize 100% local licensed farmers, organic cultivation, and CO2 extraction for superior CBD. Kind Farms is turning CBD to a kind alternative to pharmaceuticals. Let's transform Tobacco Row into Hemp Row. If you want to get involved, please reach out. Together, we can make a difference. You can use my code RYAN10 for 10% off. You can find them on Instagram at Kind Farms Inc., all one word. That's KINDPHARMSINC, and their website is kindfarmsinc.com. Once again, my code for 10% off is RYAN10.